I'm here again in Strasbourg with Nick Griffin MEP, and I'm going to talk to Nick about militancy, Nick, about a new approach. What's the thinking behind that?
I think everyone's got the point over the last few months that the British National Party is up on its hind legs and fighting. It's a matter, let's get this absolutely clear, we are not abandoning elections on the electoral road. But we've got to face facts. We've got the Labour Party in opposition. Most of our vote is working class. They're desperately worried by Tory cuts and so on. A lot of them are voting Labour through gritted teeth rather than voting for us. And so we can't rely, for a period, we can't rely on winning elections as the motor of our morale and growth. So we need something different. And we also have to face facts that winning elections has pushed the establishment into addressing some issues. If we hadn't won elections, they wouldn't now have Muslim groomers in court. It's as simple as that. So they succeed to a degree, but it's not the only way to be successful. And the establishment's found quite to an extent they can block us in elections, as I say, especially now the Labour Party's in opposition. So we can't keep banging our head against a brick wall. We've got to duck and dive and move and do something different to show people that we are different to the political elite. There's one final thing on that when we get elected in elections, especially for a place like this, there's a risk that we become viewed, I think, by the ordinary public as just another part of the political system. So we've got to do something which shows, no, we are not part of their political system. We're outside it, we're radical, and we kick and we fight for ordinary people's rights.
And direct action, it does get results.
It does indeed.
We've had a couple of very good results recently.
Yep.
We've had the halal slaughter issue in Tyneside. You want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, indeed. So some months ago now, our people on South Tyneside, particularly Martin Vaughan, organised a demonstration and some pressure on a Subway there, the fast food chain, which was happily doing a trial in serving halal meat in everything. So we demonstrated against that, caused a bit of a fuss, and I'm due up in South Tyneside shortly. So Martin, a week or so ago, organised a demonstration for when I'm up there, outside the same shop. Lo and behold, we went past it a couple of days after this news started to filter up. Yeah. There's a sign in the window, "We no longer serve halal meat." Job done. Yeah. And I know that some of the fellas who were in the English Defence League in Liverpool, they did the same thing against KFC. A lot of pressure, all peaceful, all sensible, all legitimate. Notice went up, we no longer serve halal meat in this KFC. So it's something that we can win. And they're only small victories. You're talking millions of animals slaughtered in this brutal way, but it's a way that raises consciousness. And if we don't do it, then the Islamisation wave just rolls on unabated. And to start pushing it back in places, that's something really important. And we wouldn't ever do it just talking about it in election addresses. We do it by being militant and giving companies a choice between doing something and losing money, or doing the right thing and keeping their custom.
And again, like we've discussed in earlier topics, nobody else is dealing with these issues.
No one's dealing with those issues. There's us, there's, as mentioned before, there's been the English Defence League. It's now riven with disputes over the Zionist takeover, in effect, from the top of the organisation. A lot of people, rightly so, are very disillusioned with that, but they still want to be out there campaigning sensibly and peacefully, as they've always done, despite the media spears on the streets. And if we can provide to some of those people a home, or at least an example for the others, if they want to carry on doing it under whatever banner, I don't really care, as long as people are doing something instead of sitting in pubs complaining about things.
That's right, and there's been a very genuine want for unity in nationalist circles. Yep. And I think we proved beyond doubt that that can happen and is happening. Saturday was a perfect example of that. Saturday
in Blackpool, where there was us from all over, especially a great turnout from our young and fast-growing Scottish organisation, but a great turnout also from the Scottish Defence League, from the North West Infidels, from the North East Infidels, these various groups who spun off from the English Defence League because they don't like the Zionist control there, and that's really what it is. I'm partway through a very detailed study which really blows the lid off the whole thing. And so people who've woken up to that problem but still want to campaign or want to get back to campaigning about the Islamisation of Britain and stopping that, yeah, they're there and they've been involved with us. It's really good. Not just, of course, in Blackpool, it's also, I think, to a large extent developed from what happened in Scotland a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. Well, again, unity amongst different groups, and you did offer assistance to the SDL up in Scotland there, on a legal matter.
Yeah, so they, in brief, because I think some of the viewers won't have seen this before, in brief, the Scottish Defence League applied for a march in Edinburgh on the Islamisation issue. The Labour Council predictably turned them down, having recently agreed to allow basically sectarian marches by particularly a pro-IRA group and a loyalist march. Now, I think everyone should be allowed to march, as a matter of fact. I've got a lot more sympathy for the loyalists, none at all for the Republican pro-IRA people. Nevertheless, I think both groups should be allowed to march. So it's fine for them to be allowed to march, but then the SDL, the Labour people, turned around and said, no, no way. So instead of sitting down and taking it, sitting in the pubs and complaining, these basically young working class lads said, we're going to fight this in court, which I thought was astounding, really fantastic step forward. And they came and asked for us if we could help in any way. I put them in touch with Patrick Harrington from Solidarity, and Solidarity, the union, has a thing called the Free Representation Unit, which does what it says on the box. It provides free representation for good causes. And Pat and the SDL people, their executive committee in Scotland, took on the Labour Edinburgh Council, took on the best lawyers they could throw at it, and they beat them. Absolutely tremendous result. So they had their march, and it made the point that you can't push the white working class around forever and a day, because sooner or later they'll fight back, and they are fighting back in a sensible, controlled, legal, constitutional, peaceful, but nevertheless militant way. It's great to see.
It also proved as well, people will be rightly nervous about mention of court cases and things, and you've mentioned the Solidarity Free Representation Unit. So court cases chosen in that very careful manner, they don't have to cost anything.
Court cases which are very carefully chosen, where elements of the British establishment, particularly the bigoted left, are so stupid as to deny people fundamental rights, so they put themselves outside the law. It's only a matter of bringing them to book. And importantly, people bringing the cases who themselves don't have anything to lose. The British National Party is not going to bring any cases. If I can have my way and you can have yours, we'll never be involved in a court case again. They're monstrous. Right. But a court case brought by an impecunious litigant against a council or whatever, a police force who've got pots of money, that's a different matter, because you cannot lose. Even if you do lose, no one pays the costs. Apart from the institution which has been wrong in the first place. So we are going down that road, but as you say, extremely carefully chosen court case where the opposition, the powers that be, are banged to rights. We know we can get them, and we've got someone who will bring that case with nothing to lose. Then, yep, we're going to have them, time and time again.
Just quickly before we finish, the Burnley Grooming case.
Yep. This is another one of what is now a wave of these cases. So we're no longer, in fact, campaigning for something to be done, because something is being done, actually. It's not being done in enough places, and where they've got 3 in one court and 9 in another, where there's hundreds or thousands of these people involved, it isn't enough. But at least now something is being done, thanks to the pressure that ordinary people like us have applied. So now we've got to move on, and as I was saying earlier on, push for the public inquiry that's needed into the failure of the British state to get a grip with this. So the Burnley, was it yesterday, wasn't it, was the start of another one of these trials. Yeah. I believe we had about 20 people there, the Truth van and so on. So a good show there. I don't know if publicity has come out of it yet, but a good show for a Monday weekday, a working day. And certainly we'll be back at the end of the trial, not saying in advance of it that these men are guilty or innocent. We don't know. That's for a jury to decide. And however much we loathe what it's alleged they've done, they are innocent until they're proven guilty. So at these cases, we're going to be campaigning from now on, effectively, this specific case, leave it to the jury. What we're here for is to demand a public inquiry to sort the whole thing out in due course.
What I think is one of the most relevant things that came from the Burnley case, and again, viewers might not have heard this yet, but the judge actually asked for assurances off the jury,
Yes.
that there weren't members of the British National Party, or in fact that the families of the jurors had no links with the British National Party.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that astonishing.
They appear to be saying and what do they mean by a link with? If you vote, if your granddad votes, if your son votes, you can't sit on a jury. It's an incredible thing. The more so for me personally, because when I was up in court for talking about this issue back in 2004, 2005, we were not allowed to reject Muslims from the jury. In fact, in the first case, a Muslim sat on my jury. So again, if I'd been allowed to say, I don't really think a Muslim can hear this fairly, then it would be fair enough for them to say, a member of the British National Party perhaps can't hear this fairly.
Would it be fair?
I don't know if it would be, but the fact
would that be fair? I don't think it would be fair.
The issue is the double standards here. Either it might have been fair if it was done to both of us, but as they didn't do it for me, then why on earth should they do it to protect alleged Muslim paedophiles? So, yeah, quite an amazing thing. I'm sure that will produce, publicity, and I hope it will anger people.
Well, that story we'll see where that goes.
We'll see where it goes.
It's certainly a development that shows that us being outside these trials, as it's been noted at the highest level.
It's certainly noted.
It's obviously been talked about by the the judges at the highest level.
Absolutely. And we'll be outside Stafford this coming Monday the 18th.
Yeah.
This is a group of alleged groomers from Telford. It's half of the gang are up in Stafford Crown Court. So we'll be outside there again with the public inquiry demand. It's not just this issue. This Saturday, I was speaking just on the way over to this place where we did the filming, the Vox Box, to one of our Scottish officials who'd just been speaking to a senior officer in Strathclyde Police, who said that the British National Party cannot demonstrate in Glasgow on Saturday.
Again,
Again. The police, they've got to learn, they simply can't do this. What's going on here, incidentally, this is, there's a demonstration by the far left against possible deportation of illegal asylum seekers. So there's a nationalist counter-demonstration saying that these people are illegal, they should be deported. And the police are saying, oh no, the far left can have their demonstration, but the nationalists can't have a counter-demonstration. Again, when it's the other way around, they're pleased to facilitate gangs of far left thugs to try and attack our people. But when it's a peaceful nationalist counter-demonstration, the police are saying they're not having it. So my advice to our young official there was to get back onto this police officer and ask for this in writing. Because he said, if you people attempt even to come into Glasgow on Saturday, we're going to arrest you, all of you. So interesting times, because our people won't back down because they're in the right.
Interesting summer.
Indeed, one last point on this as well, because this is an astounding, shocking thing. There's a lady called Margaret Walker. She's 73. She's in court in Fareham in Hampshire, in the Magistrates' Court on the 22nd of June, that's like next Friday, because the 73-year-old, she wrote letters to councillors and MPs drawing their attention to the Charlene Downs case and mentioning the British National Party campaign, and she's been arrested for it, for writing letters to members of Parliament. Beyond belief.
It is beyond belief.
And we'll have a demonstration outside there supporting Mrs. Walker. Brave lady is 73. Apparently she's disabled. They're bullying a disabled old lady for writing a letter about something she feels strongly about, and rightly so. Quite amazing. The British police state is out of control, and someone's got to stand up to them. We're going to do it.